Hello guys and welcome to a free-to-play treasure scramble guide. Now, some asterisks to this guide is my account is free-to-play, but it's almost 2 years old, so I do have a fairly well-built account with 2 awakened heroes. And also another disclaimer I should point out is that in the treasure scramble, I am in the region 33, right? So if you guys are in some of the lower regions, the leaderboard would be a lot harder than my leaderboard. But also if you guys are in some of the newer regions, your leaderboard would also be a lot easier than my leaderboard. Now, as you guys can see, currently I'm ranked 83 in the treasure scramble with my teams. Now, I'll just quickly go over my teams, but initially I do want to say that for the Frost treasure scramble, I found that this is by far the hardest treasure scramble to me, because there's not a lot of guide content out there, so you do have to research a lot by yourself and figure out what works for your account with your investments. But I've actually come to find that this is a fairly free-to-play friendly round, because there's actually some heroes that just doesn't really work in this round. For example, Awakened Thane and the burst teams with Saphriel are not as effective because of the buff here, the freezing buff, which makes all your heroes basically immune to damage at the start of fights, meaning that rushing heroes are a lot less efficient, which is good for free-to-play players because most rushing heroes are more expensive heroes to build. Now, the key thing for this round that I found as a free-to-play player, and which is what made me happy about this round, is actually that you can make some fairly good teams with pretty low investment heroes. Now, one of the main things that helped me climb is this first team. As you can see here, it's a dimensional team using Astar and Anastar, and this is actually just a really cheap team to make. And the key thing here is that I use my dimensional heroes here, but I also use them here, so I am able to do 2 teams with my dimensional heroes. And as we all know, dimensional heroes are super efficient for free-to-play accounts, because you get them basically for free or through the garrison, but they're a lot more cheap to build than the awakened heroes, for example. And also another key thing is this Scarlet team that I made. This is actually one of the teams that I made by myself. I'm really proud of it, because I just thought, since all the heroes start out nearly invulnerable, you would just be able to get away with using Rosaline and using slower heroes like the Syra to just buff up Scarlet, allowing her to do more damage later in the fight. So the 3 key teams for you guys as free-to-play players would be, well, once you get to the 6 team stages, would be my Scarlet team, right? Because it uses very cheap heroes. It would be the Ainz team, right? Dimensional Ainz team with Mortis. I think this can be Arthur as well to great success. I haven't actually tested out Arthur, but one of my guildmates told me that Arthur was better in this team. But I don't know why I didn't test it out. Maybe I just have trust issues or whatever. But this team is working very well. I mean, you gotta think that sure, it has a 30% win rate, but when you think of the teams that it's facing, right? You're at my elo bracket or at my ranking, I'm facing really strong teams. So the fact that this team can even win is such a good sign. And then obviously the peak team is this first team here, using only 3-dimensional heroes and 2 faction heroes. So that these are basically my teams, right? And here comes the second disclaimer, right? Which is, as you guys may have been able to tell, right? As I scroll through my teams, you can see I have the dimensional Astar and Asta team. Then I have the Belinda team, right? And here comes the disclaimer, because obviously what awakened heroes you have built is solely up to your account. Who did you build? Not a lot of people will have Scarlet built, and not a lot of people will have Soulless built. So in case you guys don't have the same awakened heroes built that I do, for my account I only have these 2 heroes built, right? Soulless and Belinda. If you guys don't have these awakened heroes built, I'll show you some teams using the awakened heroes that you guys built. However, I will disclaim this by saying that Awakened Thane seems to be a lot weaker this round, but I'll still show you the teams. So anyways, the Anastar dimensional Astar team, then the Belinda team, then we have the Graveborn energy disintegration team, And this is one of the teams that benefit greatly if you have the awakened version of Baden. He would slot into Gress's spot, but I don't. But this is actually like 44% is really good. And then this team is incredible, right? 84%, so good, right? It's the full sustain, energy disintegration, stun lock, damage team. It just has everything for this round, and because it can't get rushed down, it just seems to be winning every single matchup. And then obviously the Irons team with Mortis and Ezio could be Arthur, as I said earlier. And then we have the Scarlet team. Now this team I made on a whim, and it's very possible that you could slot in a lot of different things. Like, I'm not even sure this guy should be in the team. Like Hodgkin, maybe he shouldn't even be in the team, but I'm fairly certain that some sort of Scarlet plus Desira tanky sustain damage team is pretty good this round. Now, as you might have noticed, this is 6 teams, right? I'm at 6 teams, and this is also largely the reason that I have the rank that I do, rank 83, is because I'm barely able to build these 6 teams. And as you can see, you would be required a 7th team later, so I've just copied over all the different teams that I used. And then for my last team, this is just, me theory crafting. I'm thinking of doing some sort of stall team with the seal pet. And if you guys don't know, the seal pet does so much damage. So I'm hoping, because of this thing where the battle is already stalled out because of the frost debuff, that everyone just takes less damage, that the seal would be able to carry this team even if this team doesn't have any damage. But to be honest, I could see this team just not working at all. But anyways, for 6 teams, I'm doing fairly well. Now, let's get to the parts you guys are, I don't know if you guys are waiting for, but I'll show you guys some teams using different awakened heroes, if you have different awakened heroes built. Now, disclaimer, this guide is not updated. As you can see, it's missing awakened Athalia and it's missing Matria. And those 2 are key heroes that are used this round that this guide does not contain. However, if you are free to play or lower accounts, you probably don't have those built anyhow. And even if you do have those built, I'll show you where you can find teams that utilize the heroes that you have built, if this doesn't contain it. Now, there's my cursor, good. As you can see here, this is vaguely what I based my teams upon. You can see here's the Baden disintegration team that I have, and here's the Irons team that I have, right? And then down here you can see the different dimensional team that I have, where I use Anastar instead of Arthur. But here, right, the key for this round is splitting up the dimensional team into 2 teams so you can feel a more overall solid roster. So you can see the Belinda team here, then the Solace team here, and then if you guys have Brutus built, for example, you can see here's Brutus in a comp. Now, interestingly enough, I feel like this comp is using a lot of niche heroes for free-to-play players. Like, you would probably have Brutus built if you have him built, obviously, and then you would probably have Gress. Like, Gress should be built, and Anasta should probably be built, but I'm unsure if you would have Teline and Tresnor built, right? But this is if you guys want to see the entire guide, right, it's basically the same guide, right, just going over if you have, 1 or 2, 3, 4, or how many teams you guys can slot. But most relevant is looking at the last one where you see all the different teams. Now, this is the best guide that I could find for Treasure Scramble for the Frost round, which is what I said earlier in the video, that this Frost round for Treasure Scramble, you really have to do a lot of research on your own. And now, that can be hard, right? Like, how am I supposed to do research? Am I just supposed to slot in heroes and see what works? And that's where getting help from the community really comes in, right? For example, that's why I'm making a guide, right? To help you guys out. But also, if you guys just want to do research on your own, I would highly recommend you go over to this Discord server, which is the AFK Arena crowdsource Discord server. As you can see here, first of all, this Discord server is amazing, right? I would recommend you guys to join this server to share your formations in the different game modes and to basically to overall improve your AFK Arena ratings within the different ranking game modes. Because, as you can see here, when we go to the Treasure Scramble tab, I guess, you have a chat here where you can ask questions. For example, as you can see here, Sola, he's asking any 6th team suggestions, right? And people can help him out. But the main thing you should look at is this Treasure Scramble Frost screenshot catalog, where people, and I mean a lot of people in here, they screenshot their teams, right? And they upload them here, and they share, okay, this guy's top 4%, he doesn't show region, but here, for example, Fool, which is one of my guild mates, he says that he is a region 34 and rank 21, so you can instantly you can be like, okay, so he's region 34, so if I'm in a lower region, I would probably rank lower with his teams, but if I'm a higher region and I'm able to build these teams, that would help out a lot. Now, Fool is a pretty well built account, right? As you can see, he has both Rem and Emilia, which you guys won't have a free to play. But here is, for example, as I told you guys earlier with the previous guide, it didn't contain Matria, right? But here's an example of a Matria team doing 80% win rate, which is incredible, right? And also, Fool uses the Awakened Thane if you guys haven't built, and also Awakened Athalia if you guys haven't built, right? Which the other guide didn't contain either. And that's just, an example. As you can see, look at the amount of screenshots people are sharing, right? So many different screenshots. So the chances are, for example, if you have Matria build, you would be able to find a Matria team in here and make it work. And basically you mix and match what you can do. And that's, the entire fun of AFK Arena. It's like, okay, if I build this hero out, I'll free up this hero and I can make these different teams. Now, for someone like me who doesn't have that many heroes built, building your own team is also viable. For example, as I told you guys earlier, the Scarlet team that I built seems like really viable. But I had to build that myself because no one in here, at least that I saw, shared a Scarlet team similar to mine. And I couldn't really build any of the, like, as you can see here, here's an example of a Baden team if you guys have Baden built. But yeah, can't recommend the Discord enough. Now, before I go, if we just hop back into the game real quick, I really want to stress that your region would really determine your rank a lot of times, because whenever I post guides, a lot of people are like, your teams wouldn't even get me to the top 2% in my region, right? And that's completely correct, right? It's all based on your region. So for example, like I wouldn't even stand a chance in the first, I'd guess, like 25 regions, because these accounts are so much older than mine, so much more well built than mine. And also around these regions is where a lot of the early whales resides, right? A lot of the whaler accounts are in these regions. They came into the game at that time. So if you're in these regions, it's a lot harder for you. But obviously, if you're in some of the newer regions, it would be a lot easier for you. And my guys are, like they're usable by everyone, but they're catered towards weaker accounts like myself. So for example, the Scarlet team, you would never use that in some of the higher regions because you would be able to fit in stronger heroes because your account is stronger in those regions. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And also I want to stress something else, which is the Treasure Scramble rewards. I think the Treasure Scramble rewards are the best in the game. Now, obviously, I'm not going to stay in the top 100, right? I'm going to rank in the top 1% or 2% is usually where I land, because I'm unable to build a 7th team, which means as soon as I get enough, you can see it's coming soon, right? In 268 points, I'm going to have to slot in a 7th team, and I'm going to drop from the leaderboards. But I think building for a Treasure Scramble is super viable because it's a lot easier to rank higher in the Treasure Scramble than it is in, for example, the Cursed Realm. Cursed Realm is such a tough region to climb in because it's one global server, so you're fighting all the whales on all the regions in all the different servers for your ranking. Now in Treasure Scramble, you're limited to a chosen few server numbers. For example, as you can see, my account, if this works, can I press this to view my account? Yeah, my account is in the server 828, right? So I'm fighting, within 30-ish servers of that account. So it's a limited amount of people, which means that if I build out for this specific game modes, I would have a much easier time climbing in here than I would in the Cursed Realm. And the same for the Nightmare Corridor, if you guys play that one, which obviously you should. If I just quickly go over there. Now it's a lot less friendlier than the Treasure Scramble, because in the Nightmare Corridor, as you can see here, leaderboards, it's only divided into 7 regions instead of, as you saw in the Treasure Scramble, it's divided into like 44 regions. However, if you guys are rated in some of the lower regions here, it's also a lot easier to climb here. And I'm guessing soon there would be a region 8. So if you guys land in the region 8 once that comes out. A lot easier. Like building for this game mode could be a lot more viable because you would be able to climb easier. And the rewards in this game mode is pretty good. You get a lot of, well, obviously you don't get the gold, but like you get a lot of diamonds and baits and poke coins. So I think that's about what I wanted to go over for my guides. TLDR is, you look at my teams, right? You copy. I would suggest you copy. Well, I'll give them the win rates so it shows a more complete picture. But I'd suggest you copy the double dim formation, right? Using 2 different dimensional teams. I think the Scarlet team is pretty solid, and obviously this team you should be able to build, right? And then for the 2 teams that contain Awakened Heroes, right? This is a lot harder for you guys to build, and that's where you go to. For example, you go to this guide and you look at these teams if you have different Awakened Heroes built. For example, if you have Brutus or if you have Thane built, and if you have different Awakened Heroes built, I'd suggest you guys go to the Discord in the FK Arena crowdsourcing Discord, and I'd go to the Frost screenshot and I'd go look for people using teams containing the Awakened Heroes that you have built. So that's it for my guide. I really hope you guys found any help, because for whatever reason the Frost version of the Treasure Scramble is by far the hardest one to find resources that can help you, in my experience. Or when I had to make my teams, I had to do a lot of research on my own. There aren't really any super good guides, but if I ever find a really good Treasure Scramble guide, I'd obviously share it with you guys so I could help you guys out. But that's enough rambling for me. I hope you guys can improve your ranking in the Treasure Scramble and get some of those sweet rewards. See ya.